Good morning, everyone. Today, our topic is the introduction of pricing as an element of the marketing mix. After studying this chapter, you should be able to do the following: describe the nature of pricing, understand the importance of the commercial exchange, distinguish the difference of price versus cost, define pricing as a marketing activity, learn about early pricing practices, discuss pricing in the marketing concept, explain the pricing activity, understand the relevance of studying pricing, and explain the organization of pricing activities. So anytime anything is sold, there must be a price involved. The focus of this particular module is to present concepts, principles, and techniques that will provide guidance to help you as a future marketer or a future seller set the best price. Our study of how to set the best prices will take the marketing approach. And in this chapter, we will describe the business context of pricing as well as provide an overview of how the basic principles of marketing can guide effective price setting. Again, make sure to have your handouts or modules with you while listening to this video. Okay, so the commercial exchange. Although people often think of marketing as synonymous with advertising or salesmanship, it is actually much broader. Marketing, as you all know from our discussion last time, it is meeting needs profitably. So it consists of the full range of activities involved in facilitating commercial exchanges and having all these activities guided by a concern for customer needs. So the central idea here is that of the commercial exchange. So you have this illustration in your handouts. As we all know, there are 4 factors that are necessary for marketing to occur from our previous discussion. So the presence of at least 2 parties with unsatisfied needs. In this illustration, we have seller and buyer. So they have unsatisfied needs. The desire and abilities of the parties to be satisfied. The existence of ways for parties to communicate through markets and marketing intermediaries, and most especially, each party has something to exchange. So look at this illustration. So there is a seller and there is a buyer. So the seller is willing to exchange his or her products and services, and in return, the buyer also needs something in exchange. Okay, the product could be any types of product under the scope of marketing. It could be goods, services, information, places, experiences, events, ideas, properties. The buyer, we can categorize buyer based on the types of market. Is he a consumer buyer or an industrial buyer? And of course, price is the something in exchange. So this is where a seller provides a product to a buyer in return for something in exchange, usually an amount of money, or simply put, the price. Okay, in this illustration, both the buyer and seller participate in the exchange voluntarily because the exchange will lead them both to be better off. The seller will earn a profit from selling his or her product, while the buyer will also be better off after the exchange because he or she gained a product or availed a service. For example, consider the coffee machine in the College of Accountancy and Business Administration. You will put in some 5 peso coin in that coffee machine and get a small cup of coffee. You do that voluntarily because you would rather get a cup of coffee rather than a 5 peso coin. On the other hand, the owner of the coffee machine also engages in this transaction voluntarily because you would rather have your 5 peso coin than that of your cup of coffee. So that is a voluntary exchange transaction. So although we tend to take commercial exchanges for granted, we shouldn't forget that there is something very important and wonderful involved here, because both parties to the exchanges are again better off after the exchange than before. The buyer gains something, the seller gains something, and one could say that the exchange makes the world just a little bit of a better place because of these marketing exchanges. In a society where the distribution of most goods and services is governed by a free market economy, every person engages in numerous commercial exchanges every day. You are engaging in numerous commercial exchanges every day, from waking up in the morning up until sleeping at night. So you are dealing with commercial exchanges. From buying a hot pandesal in the morning, for example, shampoo before taking a bath, then paying the jeepney driver on the way to school, photocopying your handout, buying milk tea, sending GCash for load, or adding internet data to your mobile phone. So you are always having commercial exchanges and usually paying something in return through price. So the commercial exchange is at the heart of the pre-market economic system, which as we have seen in the recent year, has become more and more widely adopted among the various nations of the world. Of course, because we have commercial exchanges every day. So with that introduction, what is a price? So from this understanding of the commercial exchange, we are now able to give a formal definition of a price that which is given in return for a product in a commercial exchange. That's simple. What is given in return for a product or to avail the service or any type of among the scope of marketing in a commercial exchange. So price is the money, good or service in exchange for the ownership or use of a good for the use of good or service based on our discussion last week. So it is the quantity of payment or compensation given by one party to another in return for a unit of goods or when you avail a services. So it is usually influenced by cost, by the supply of the desired item, and the demand for the product. Again, price is influenced by cost, by the supply of the desired item, and by the demand of that particular product. So price is different from cost. Cost is the value of money that has been used to produce something or deliver a service, or the acquisition in which the amount of money expended to acquire a cost. Later on, we are going to dig deeper into the difference between price and cost. The supply of the desired item, supply and demand. Of course, the supply of the desired item is the stock of a resource or a product from which a person can be provided with the necessary amount of that particular resource. So the total amount of goods or services that are available to consumers, that is the supply of the product, while the demand of that particular product is the quantity of consumers that are willing, and not just willing, they should be willing and able to purchase that particular product at various prices during a given period of time. We also have one chapter for demand and supply based on pricing. So again, the price of the product is usually influenced by the cost, the demand, and the supply of that particular product. So price sometimes refer to the quantity of payment requested by a seller of goods or services rather than the eventual payment amount. So this requested amount of the seller when the seller is selling a product and the seller requested an amount that is often called the asking price or selling price. While the actual payment may be called the transaction price or traded price. Likewise, when the buyer of a goods or service offered a price, that is the bid price or buying price. Okay, again, when the buyer offered a price for that particular product to avail that particular product or service, that is the bid price or buying price. Now, if the seller requested that particular price for the good or service, so that is the asking price or selling price. Now, the actual payment is called the transaction price or traded price. So, the asking or selling price is, for example, the seller requested 100 pesos for you to buy his product. And your buying price, you bid 50 pesos. So, that is the bid price. Again, the selling price or the asking price of the seller is 100 pesos. Now, your bid price is 50 pesos. Then, the actual payment for that particular transaction is 80 pesos. So, that is called the traded price. So, seller, asking price, buyer, bid price, the actual payment is the traded price. Okay. So, a price will most likely be called price. However, if the product is a service, then the product's prices may well go by one of a variety of other possible names. So, price can be called a tuition, a rent, interest, a toll, fare, professional fee, salary, wages, premium, or commission. So, aside from being called simply by price, so a price can be called a tuition, rent, interest, fee, premium, fare, toll, salary, wages, and commission. First price, most goods. The price of most goods is called simply price. But there are various ways to say price. For example, tuition is for college courses and education. It is written on your handouts. So tuition is the sum of money charged for teaching or instruction by a school, college, or university. So the price of college courses or education is called tuition. Tuition is still a price. Second is we have rent. It is the use of a place to live or use of equipment for a period of time. So either place or property or equipment or other things such as cars. So rent is a tenant's regular payment to a landlord for the use of the property or land or anything. Could be a place to live in, an equipment, a car, so that is rent. And rent is also an example of price. Next is interest, the use of money. So interest is a payment from a borrower's or deposit-taking financial institution to a lender or depositor of an amount above repayment of the principal sum at a particular rate. So, simply put, it is the charge of the privilege of borrowing money. So, when you borrow money, there is a charge for that particular privilege. For example, you borrowed 1,000 pesos. So, if the interest rate is 5%, the interest is 50 pesos. So, interest is also a price. Next, we have fee. specifically professional fee for professional services. So for lawyers, doctors, consultants, architects, engineers, so they have professional fee. These are prices charges by individuals, especially trained in specific fields such as doctors, lawyers, again, okay, architects, accountants. So it is usually an income account by a professional firm in recording its revenues. So that is professional fee. Next, we have premium. Premium is used for insurance. So premium is the amount paid periodically to the insurer by the insured for covering his risk. For example, you have a life insurance, and for that insurance, you need to pay 3,000 quarterly or 1,000 monthly to your insurer. It could be AXA or Sun Life Financial. So, premium is also an example of price because you are paying for your insurance. It is the price of your insurance. Okay. Next, we also have fare. So, fare is for transportation, airplane, taxi, buses. So the amount a passenger on public transportation has to pay. Your fare in jeepney, buses. So that is the term for the pricing for public transportation. And a fare is an example of a price. We also have toll. It is the use of a road or bridges or long distance phone rate. So, a charge payable for the permission to use a particular bridge or a particular road. So, NLEX, SLEX, SCTEX, and also long distance phone rate. There is a toll fee. And toll fee is an example of a price. We also have salary and wages. So, salary is for work of managers, wages work of hourly workers. So, salary is a fixed payment, fixed regular payment typically paid on a monthly or sometimes, or most of the times actually, semi-monthly, 15/30, 10/25 basis by the employer to his or her employees. So sometimes 20,000 a month or 10,000 semi-monthly. So salaries are recorded of course on payroll accounts, while wages work of hourly workers. So each job, hour or unit is paid separately rather than on a periodic basis. Wages are part of the expenses, of course, that are involved in running a business. So that is the difference between the two. Salary is usually regular and fixed, while wage is each job or each hour is and each unit paid separately, rather on a periodic basis, because salary, it is on periodic basis. We also have commission. Of course, you know this because I have discussed this during your salesmanship. So it is for sales effort. So a variable pay remuneration for services rendered or products sold. Commissions are a common way, of course, to motivate salespeople or reward your employees. So for example, you will receive a 50,000 commission when you when you sell one condominium units, for example. So that is a commission. It is also a price, an example of price, because you're going to pay it for your employees. When they sell one condominium units, for example, you need to pay them 50,000 pesos. There are also various ways and the names for prices. For example, we have talent fees. There are many names. Amortization in a way. So talent pay a price a brand has to pay when they want to work with one of your talents, for example. So now let's go to pricing versus cost. So, price is commonly confused with the notion of cost of production. As in, I paid a high cost for buying my television, for example, rather than I pay a high price for buying that television. But technically, these are two different concepts because price is what a buyer pays to acquire products from the seller. Again, price is what a buyer pays to buy the television, while cost of production concerns the seller's expenses. So cost concerns only the seller, while price um, is for the buyer. And sometimes cost is being used by the buyer, like the example earlier. It cost me 10,000 pesos to buy the television, but commonly cost concerns the seller only. For example, what is the cost of producing the television for the seller in producing the product being exchanged with a buyer? So for marketing organizations seeking to make a profit, the hope is that the price will exceed the cost, of course. So sometimes if you are, and most of the times, I'm sorry, when you are pricing your product, the price should exceed the cost for you to have a profit, because price minus cost is equals to the profit, so that the organization can see financial gain from the transaction. So although a price may go by many names, one name it should not go by is cost. This is because we will usually be taking the viewpoint of the seller in this particular subject. So if we were taking the viewpoint of the buyer, this would not be an issue. Again, buyers particularly and typically use the term price and cost synonymously. For example, in your handout, you can say the price of this particular shirt is 200 pesos, or this it cost me 200 pesos to buy that particular or this particular shirt. However, from the viewpoint of the seller, the difference between prices and cost is quite important. Our definition earlier that the price is influenced by cost, supply, and demand. Cost is the value of money that has been used up to produce something or deliver a service or acquisition in which the amount of money is expended to require as cost. So an entrepreneur may set a price of 100 pesos, for example, for his milk tea, and 200 pesos for his carbonara. So for example, that entrepreneur is selling milk tea and carbonara, but that same entrepreneur must also attend to his costs. For example, this includes costs for what he pays the suppliers for the milk, for the tea, or for the pasta. What he pays his employees, the cook, the store attendant, what he pays for the office or building that he is renting to sell that particular milk tea or carbonara, for the heat and lights, for advertisement, and so on. So price, the selling price of that product is different from the costing of that product. So pricing as a marketing activity. So marketing activities are those actions an organization can take for the purpose of facilitating commercial exchanges. So as we all know, and we have discussed this last week, there are 4 categories of marketing activities that are particularly important and which are traditionally known as the 4 elements of the marketing mix, or simply put, the 4 P's of marketing. So we have product, designing, naming, packaging goods, services that satisfy customers, distribution or place of distribution, efforts to make the product available at the times and places that customers want, promotion, communicating about the product and or the organization that produces it, and pricing, determining what must be provided by a customer in return for the product. So last week we also discussed the subjects for these four elements of the marketing mix. Remember, under product, it includes variety, quality, designs, pictures, sizes, brand name, packaging, service, warranties, and returns. For promotion, the integrated marketing communication, sales promotion, public relation, personal selling, advertisement, events and experiences marketing, direct marketing, and social media marketing. And for place of distribution, we have marketing channels, coverage, assortment, locations, inventory, and transport. And for our subject, pricing, so we have list price, discounts, allowances, payment periods, objective payments period, and also credit. So the product, distribution, and promotion are all part of the process of providing something satisfying to the customers. Diba? According to Cutler's definition, marketing is the process by which companies create value for customers and build strong customer relationships to capture value from customers in return by means of profit. And usually, the product, the promotion, and the place of distribution are the marketing mix that create value, while the price is the one that harvests value, because according to Cutler's definition, it is two-way. You are going to create value for your customers by making the product, by selling it, by making it available through your distribution, by promoting the product and making the customers aware that the product is existing, and by satisfying your customers through value and satisfaction. So these three marketing mix, product, pricing, and promotion, they are creating value. Now the price is the one that is harvesting value for your organization. The second definition of Cutler, so in order to capture value from customers in return. Pricing is not primarily concerned with creating value. Rather, it could be said to be the marketing activity involved with capturing or harvesting the value created by the other types of marketing activities. So in the words of Philip Cutler again, price is the marketing mix element that produces revenue. The other, they produce cost. Products, they produce cost, the cost of materials, the cost of resources, the cost of packaging. Promotion, it produces cost, the cost of advertisement, the cost of personal selling, the cost of PR. Places of distribution, it produces cost, the cost of marketing intermediaries, the cost of delivery, the cost of warehousing, renting a warehouse. So pricing is the one involves in harvesting value for the organizations in return. Okay, lastly, we will talk about the function of prices. So in a free enterprise exchange economy, characterizes usually by a private ownership of the means of production, prices serve this particular function. First, they provide an incentive to enterprises to produce those products that are valued most highly by the market and to use methods of production that economize relatively scarce factors of production. Because who will produce without getting a price for something that you produce, right? So, price provides incentives to enterprises. Second, they also provide incentives to owners of resources to direct them into the most highly remunerated uses. So same, price is an incentive for the resources or owners to sell the resources to the manufacturers of products. They also distribute output among the factors of production. So price distributes output among the factors of production. What are the factors of production? So we have land, labor, and capital. So price distributes output and productivity to these factors of production. Fourth, price rations fixed supplies of goods among consumers. So because of price, the demand of the people will provide fixed supplies for the consumers. So and we will have a further discussion for this demand and supply in our demand and supply chapter according to pricing. Price also gives an outlook to the quality of a product, because sometimes price determines the quality of the product, right? So there is a notion that if the price is more expensive, if the price of the product is more expensive, then there is better quality to that particular product. And lastly, they help people budget easier and for how to save for future events, needs, and wants. So price helps people budget easier, because knowing the prices of various goods and services will help the consumers budget their money. So price helps people budget easier. Okay. That's it for today.